Every week a new case, nothing less than the truth. Before we move on to the next one, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and in the end, tell me what stuck with you the most.
Before the events that changed Emma's life forever, she seemed like just another ordinary young woman, living her life in Stockholm, the capital of Sweden. Emma Young Stig was born and raised in a quiet neighborhood, surrounded by her family. Her friends described her as a smiling, kind girl, very dedicated to her studies. Nothing indicated that, years later, her name would be in all the country's newspapers because of such a dramatic case. At 19, Emma married Nicholas, her teenage boyfriend. They were that couple everyone thought was perfect. You know those relationships that start at school, go through ups and downs, but seem destined to last? Well, it looked like that would be the case for them. Shortly after the wedding, Emma and Nicholas had 2 children, little Max and adorable Saga. The family photos conveyed happiness, trips to the park, birthdays, simple moments full of meaning. But like many love stories, over time, difficulties began to arise. Routine, financial pressures, personality differences, all of that built up. And unfortunately, the marriage didn't survive. The separation was difficult, as separations usually are, especially when children are involved. But Emma, determined and full of life, decided to move on. She knew she had to be strong for Max and Saga, and believed there was still room to be happy. And it was in this new chapter of life that she met Torny Hellberg, a charismatic, hardworking man who seemed willing to build something solid by her side. Over time, their relationship grew stronger, and together they began making plans. A new house, a wedding, and the hope of a happy new beginning. Now, I want to hear from you watching this. Do you believe it's possible to start over after a complicated breakup? Have you ever been through something like this, or know someone who has? Comment down below because I love reading your story. But unfortunately, Emma's new beginning wouldn't be as simple as she imagined. After everything she'd been through, Emma finally felt like things were getting back on track. The end of her marriage to Nicholas had been painful, but she was determined to start over. And it was at that moment that Torny Hellberg came into her life as a true relief amidst the chaos. Torny was a calm, reserved, but very attentive man. He worked as a technician for a technology company and, according to friends, had always been a trustworthy person. He was the type who liked stability, routine, and, most importantly, building something solid with the one he loved. Their relationship progressed quickly, but maturely. Emma and Torny shared similar values. He not only accepted that Emma had 2 children from a previous relationship, but also showed care and respect for Max and Saga. The children began to see him as a father figure, which made Emma even more confident that she was on the right path. Over time, the plans grew. They decided to move to a smaller town in search of a quieter life, away from the hustle and bustle of Stockholm. They wanted a welcoming home, a new beginning, a story of their own. Marriage was also already part of the plan. Emma was excited, dreaming of every detail, the dress, the ceremony, the future. Finally, she believed life had given her a second chance to be happy. But what no one imagined was that while Emma was planning her future, Torny's past was about to knock on the door, and it wouldn't be in a friendly way. And you, do you believe the past can really come back to haunt the present? Comment down below with your thoughts on it. Oh, and if you enjoy this kind of story, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. There are still many revelations to come. March 17th, 2008 seemed like just another ordinary day for Emma and her family. The small town where they lived, far from the hustle of Stockholm, was the perfect setting for a peaceful life. In the morning, Torny Hellberg left early for work, as he always did. Emma stayed home taking care of Max and Saga, her 2 children, who were her top priority. The day went on as usual. Emma did household chores, played with the children, exchanged messages with friends and family. No one could have imagined that night, their lives would change drastically. Around 7 p.m., Emma was texting her sister. They were talking about trivial things, weekend plans, wedding preparations, laughing, having fun. But suddenly, the mood changed. Emma's messages stopped. No response. Her sister insisted, called, sent new messages, but the silence on the other end only increased the concern. Meanwhile, Torny, unaware of everything, was finishing his workday. He had no idea that, at that very moment, something terribly wrong was happening inside his own home. Around 9 p.m., he arrived home. The first thing he noticed was the door slightly ajar. Strange. After all, Emma was always careful, especially with the children at home. Upon entering, there was absolute silence. But there was something in the air, that feeling that something terrible had happened. He called for Emma. Nothing. He walked through the living room, and the shock was immediate. The room was completely overturned. Objects on the floor, furniture out of place. It looked like a fight had taken place there. His heart raced. Going upstairs, he found Emma lying on the floor, unconscious, with visible signs of assault on her. Near her, Max and Saga were crying, scared, not understanding what was happening. Panic set in. Torny immediately called emergency services. Within minutes, police cars and ambulances arrived at the scene. The neighbors, curious and worried, began to come out of their houses. The usually quiet street became filled with sirens, lights, and whispers. Emma was rushed to the hospital. She was alive, but in critical condition. The children were also examined, but fortunately had not suffered physical injury. Now, one detail left the authorities puzzled. Nothing had been taken from the house. Money, electronics, jewelry, everything was still there. It wasn't a robbery. This had been a targeted attack. Someone had entered with a single objective, to harm Emma. And I ask you, who could be capable of something so cruel? Do you think it was someone close? A stranger? Comment below your theory. I really want to know what you think about this case. And of course, if you're finding this story as intriguing as I am, leave a like. There's still so much to happen, and I promise you, what's coming will shake you. The town, which until recently lived in peace, was now plunged into fear and uncertainty. The brutal attack on Emma Young Stig was not just a personal tragedy, but a collective shock for that community. The police wasted no time. The investigation began within the first hours after the crime. They needed to act quickly. In violent cases like that, the first 24 hours are crucial. The police's first hypothesis was the most obvious. Look at Emma's inner circle. Statistically, in situations like this, the attacker is usually someone close. Torny Hellberg, Emma's fiancé, was the first to be interrogated. Even though he was the one who found Emma unconscious and called emergency services, the police had to consider all possibilities. In many cases, the perpetrator tries to deceive authorities by pretending to be a victim or rescuer. But soon, the investigation began ruling out that possibility. Torny had a solid alibi. Security cameras at the company where he worked showed him arriving and leaving at his usual time. Furthermore, time records and conversations with co-workers confirmed his presence there during the entire period when the attack occurred. And more, neighbors also confirmed seeing Torny's car leaving the house in the morning and only returning around 9 p.m., which matched his statement. With Torny practically off the list of suspects, investigators turned their attention to someone else, Emma's ex-husband, Nicholas. The recent separation and possible conflicts over child custody made him someone to consider. Cases of violence driven by jealousy or custody disputes are not uncommon. The police located Nicholas and interrogated him. They asked about his relationship with Emma, the children, and especially where he was on the day of the crime. Nicholas presented solid proof. He was in another city, attending a corporate event with hotel records, witnesses, and even phone calls that confirmed his location. There was no way he could have committed the crime. 2 suspects eliminated. But the question remained, who attacked Emma and why? At that moment, new information emerged. Neighbors reported something to the police that had seemed insignificant until then, but would change the course of the investigation. On the night of the attack, some residents saw a strange figure wandering the street. It was a short person wearing a dark hooded jacket. Their face was covered, making identification impossible. This person was seen near Emma's house just before the crime. When Torny heard that description, something clicked in his mind. It wasn't just a coincidence. The memory of someone from the past resurfaced, along with a suspicion he never thought he'd have to revisit. Before revealing who was behind that memory, I want to know your theory. Do you think that mysterious figure was someone from Emma's past? Or maybe from Torny's? Comment below what you think. I really want to read your theory. And of course, if you're as involved in this story as I am, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. What comes next will bring revelations no one could have predicted. When neighbors reported seeing a short person wearing a dark hooded jacket wandering the neighborhood the night of the attack, something clicked in Torny Hellberg's memory. Immediately, he felt a chill run down his spine. The memory was inevitable. The name Christina Scherer came to mind. Christina was years before his girlfriend, a relationship that at first seemed normal but, over time, revealed disturbing signs of obsession. Christina became possessive, controlling, and when the relationship ended, she simply couldn't accept it. She began stalking Torny insistently. Constant phone calls, messages in the middle of the night, unexpected appearances at places he used to frequent. She even followed Torny's friends and family, trying to maintain some sort of control over his life. No matter how hard he tried to end contact politely, definitively, she wouldn't give up. Until, one day, she disappeared. She stopped sending messages, stopped showing up. Torny believed that, finally, she had moved on. But now, everything indicated that he was wrong. The description provided by the neighbors matched Christina's profile. The police began investigating, and what they discovered was, to say the least, disturbing. Christina never got over the end of the relationship. She had moved to a nearby town, but secretly followed Torny's life. She maintained fake social media profiles to monitor the couple, took photos of Emma and the children, observed their every move without them noticing. What shocked the authorities the most was the fact that Christina had spread the lie among acquaintances that she and Torny had a child together, a child that never existed. This invention was part of the delusion she created to sustain, in her own mind, the illusion that the two were still connected. When investigators obtained a warrant to access Christina's computer, they found a true obsessive archive. There were hundreds of photos of Emma, the children, the family's house, and even the places they frequented. They also discovered saved, threatening messages. Christina referred to Emma as an obstacle and spoke of her with words filled with hate. Christina's profile fit perfectly with what experts call Adele syndrome, a disorder where love turns into obsession and fantasy, leading the person to lose touch with reality and act destructively. Police also discovered that Christina had a history of obsessive behavior in other relationships, though no previous case had ever escalated to the point of physical violence like the attack on Emma. Now, with the evidence mounting, Christina became the prime suspect. But concrete proof directly linking her to the crime was still missing. And I want to know, do you think Christina is really guilty? Or could there still be someone else involved? Comment down below. I really want to know what you think about this complex case. With Christina Schurer being identified as the main suspect, the investigation progressed quickly. Authorities knew that, in cases like this, every detail could be the key to solving the mystery. Christina's obsession was more than clear. The photos, the computer records, the threatening messages, everything indicated she had been monitoring the lives of Emma Young Stig and Torny Helberg from. But one essential thing was still missing: a direct link between Christina and the attack. It was during the search of Christina's apartment that investigators found what could be that link. Rummaging through closets and boxes, they noticed that specific tools were missing, among them an iron bar, very similar to the type of object that, according to forensic experts, had been used in the attack on Emma. This detail further increased suspicions. And there was more. Christina's neighbors reported extremely strange behavior in the days leading up to the crime. She avoided eye contact, left the house at odd hours, and according to one neighbor, had been seen thoroughly cleaning the trunk of her car just hours after the police ordered a forensic examination of Christina's vehicle. And even after the intense cleaning, specialists managed to find traces of blood consistent with Emma's blood type. It was significant evidence, but still not definitive. Meanwhile, Emma remained hospitalized. She had awoken from the coma, but was confused and had fragmented memory. Slowly, however, details from that terrible night began to emerge. Sounds, flashes, sensations. Emma remembered a hooded, short figure entering the house. She remembered the fear, the confusion, and although the person's face was still unclear, the build and height matched Christina's profile exactly. Investigators gathered all this information and presented it to the case prosecutor. The evidence was piling up. The obsessive behavior, the threatening messages, the surveillance of the family, the missing iron bar, the blood traces in the car, and now Emma's testimony, even a fragment. The case was about to go to trial, but tension increased by the day. The press followed everything closely, and all of Sweden was paying attention to each new revelation. The country was divided between outrage and shock over what appeared to be a crime purely driven by obsession. Meanwhile, Torny and Emma's family did everything they could to protect the children and stay out of the spotlight, trying to preserve what little peace they had left. And now, I ask you, given all this, Do you believe the evidence against Christina is enough? Or do you think there's still some doubt in me? I really want to know your opinion on this case. Comment down below. I always read what you write. The case was ready to go to trial. The evidence had piled up, the testimonies were complete, and the public pressure was immense. All of Sweden closely followed what would happen to Christina Schurrer, the woman whose obsession had crossed all limits, culminating in one of the country's most talked about crimes. Christina was formally charged with attempted murder, stalking, and making threats. During the trial, the prosecution presented all the evidence: the photos of Emma and the children, the threatening messages, the missing iron bar consistent with the weapon used in the attack, and of course, Emma's testimony, who, despite her fragmented memory, recognized the physical build and clothes of her attacker. Experts also presented the forensic results from Christina's car. Even after the thorough cleaning, traces of blood were found and later confirmed to match Emma's blood type. For many, that detail was the final piece of the puzzle. During the trial, Christina maintained a cold demeanor. She denied the accusations, claimed she never wanted to hurt anyone, and that everything was just a coincidence. But the accumulation of evidence spoke louder. Human behavior experts were called in to explain to the jury what Adele syndrome. They described how romantic obsession can lead a person to build a parallel reality, ignore rejection, and fuel dangerous fantasies. Christina, according to the experts, showed clear signs of this disorder. After weeks of trial, the verdict was announced: guilty. Christina was convicted on all charges and received a sentence consistent with the seriousness of the crime. The court also ordered protective measures for Emma and her family, ensuring that Christina could not approach them after serving her sentence. Despite the conviction, the scars from that crime would never be forgotten. Emma needed months of physical and psychological treatment to recover. The children, still very young, were supported by specialists to help them overcome the trauma. For Torney, the case left deep emotional wounds. In addition to the pain of seeing Emma in critical condition, he had to face the fact that the past, the one he thought he had left behind, came back in a violent and unexpected way. But above all, the case served as a warning. It showed that behind seemingly ordinary faces can lie stories of obsession and danger. That love, when distorted, can turn into something dark and destructive. And that's why telling this story is so important. Not just because of the mystery or curiosity, but to remind everyone that obsession is not romance, and no one deserves to live in fear. And now, tell me, what did you think of this case? Have you ever heard of Adele syndrome? Do you think justice was served? I really want to read your opinion in the comments. And if you enjoyed this real-life story and want to follow other intriguing cases like this, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I always bring content that, besides informing, makes us reflect. Thank you so much for staying with me until the end. See you in the next video.